It is 6 o'clock in Trinidad and Tobago, 5 o'clock in Jamaica, and 4 o'clock in Belize. Good evening and welcome to this Facebook Live edition of Let's Talk Access, a social media program produced and presented by the UWI Open Campus. This evening, I am your co-host, Cleveland Sam, and today my other co-host is none other than Miss Cherise Glasgow. Good evening, Cherise.
Thank you for joining us from wherever you are in the Caribbean this evening. Today we focus on the amazing work of our Early Childhood Center of Excellence called Bloom TT, Trinidad and Tobago, which is a unit in the Consortium for Social Development and Research.
All right, Cherise, and who are our guests today?
Our guests today are Mrs. Nicole Romani. She is an early childhood coordinator at Bloom TT, and Miss Carrie-Ann Placid, who is a teacher at Bloom TT. Ladies, welcome to Let's Talk Access.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Welcome.
Good to have you. So Nicole, perhaps we can start with you. Bloom TT, what exactly is Bloom TT? For some persons, this is the first time they're hearing of the name Bloom TT. So Nicole, you can probably tell us what is Bloom TT.
Well, it will be unfortunate if they're now hearing about us for the first time, because we really want people to know so much about us.
Right.
We are an entity within the UWI Open Campus, as Cherise would have alluded to just now. But we provide early childhood care and education services for Trinidad and Tobago population. And it's not only for, I think some people, they have the notion that it's for only the UWI staff members, but we provide a service for the public as well. And it really caters for children 3 to 5 years old who are within the preschool age group. And we provide both the early care services as well as late care services and the preschool service within. So we are all encompassing because we are mindful of the fact that we have working parents and parents who will be in need of specific types of services for childcare.
All right, awesome. But you're also part of a larger structure. As you said, you're part of the UWI Open Campus, but you also belong to a unit within the Open Campus called the Consortium for Social Development and Research, yes?
Yes, we are, and that is headed by Mrs. Cecile Minot, and she's our head. She manages both early childhood centers, and I should mention here that we do have a sister school, although we are going to be highlighting Bloom TT, meaning Trinidad and Tobago School in Trinidad, but we also have a sister school in Jamaica, and we all fall under that umbrella of services for early childhood care and education.
Right. And Bloom TT and Bloom Jamaica, as you said, have been described as a lab school.
Yes.
Oh, in the Caribbean, this is a very interesting concept. Can you explain to us what does a lab school mean?
Right, and I don't want it to be too technical for people. Simply put, we are aligned to the University of the West Indies, and our environment is used for our teacher trainers, persons who have accessed our teacher training program. And we are basically the laboratory environment where people can come in and do their training, and not only specifically for UWI Open Campus trainees, but we have opened up our environment for other institutions who wish to get an opportunity to get a space for practicum, for their students to get a practical component of teaching. So they might have been in the classroom doing the theory component, but it's always essential to have that practical component. So that's what we provide for, so hence the label lab. In other words, they get to see theory in action.
I see. So students who are doing early childhood or psychology research or education research, they can come into your institution and conduct what do I call living research?
Yes, yes, live research, empirical evidence, if they need to do a particular study on early childhood care and education, with anything within the field of early childhood care and education, and we do support that. And mind you, we do extend our services to other arms of programs that will be in need of taking a look at how their program can filter into the early childhood sector. So it's important for us to know that as well. So people who are into dental care, nutrition, and maybe need to see how things, maybe in physical education, and they want to start from a young age and filter up to adulthood, it starts within the early childhood environment as well.
Very interesting stuff. And what are the age groups again you said you cater for?
3 to 5.
3 to 5. All right, Charisse.
So I want to send my child to Bloom TT. What are some of the requirements?
One of the main things is we tell parents, we are not very fussy about children being prepared to come to preschool. Just ensure that they have some interest in toilet training, meaning that they have some form of independence in that area, and we will do the rest. Don't worry about the speech, they're able to communicate, because we provide an environment to facilitate holistic development. So yes, you would need some official documentation because that's all part of it. But in terms of the child, him or herself, you really don't need to do much. Just ensure that the child is at an age and a stage of development where they have some form of independence in being able to function among other people. Some of the official documents that you would need as per our statutory requirement here in Trinidad and Tobago, birth paper, immunization card, the 2 passport size photos, and an application form. That's it.
Okay. So what are some of the training, educational, professional development that the teachers at Bloom TT are required to possess?
Oh, well, in order for staff to work within our environment, you must be certified at least bachelor's degree level. That's the minimum qualifications. And of course, you go all the way up to a master's degree if that is required. However, it must be in early childhood care and education in order for us to see you as a comfortable fit within the staff and at Bloom TT. You must at least have minimum requirements. However, we do have various categories of staff. So even if you don't have your bachelor's degree as yet, but you do have a certificate at that level, and there is a position, what we call a teacher assistant, you can be recognized for working within the environment. But our minimum qualification to be a teacher is that of a bachelor's degree.
Okay. So would you say that this field is very competitive in terms of requirements, or are the requirements forthcoming?
You know, before 2010, we would say that we didn't have much of a cohort of teachers within Trinidad and Tobago. But now, based on what UWI Open Campus is offering as well, because we do provide opportunities for members of the public to access both the certificate level and the degree level. So we now have more persons who are meeting that minimum standard. So we have a rich pool of people who can work within the early childhood sector in Trinidad and Tobago. And of course, there is a standard nationally that requires anybody who has to be qualified as a teacher must have a degree. And specifically for early childhood care and education, you must have a bachelor's degree in early childhood care and education.
So are there any safety training, specific safety training that the teachers will require, like playground safety, CPR, anything like that, that is also required?
Yes, you must have training in first aid. You must be able to give quick emergency treatment to children. And you must know some of the signs and symptoms of children being ill. So your training in first aid is very essential.
Okay. And in terms of COVID-19, we know that's a big thing, and we know we are still in the midst of the pandemic. How has that affected the implementation of the curriculum?
Oh, well, in Trinidad, we had to be closed. All schools were closed. And we are in the process of possible reopening in January. And once that is confirmed by our Ministry of Health here, we are going to ensure that we meet those minimum standards. And there are a lot of protocols that we need to put in place to ensure that we are able to safely engage children and parents within a physical environment. So, but we have been online providing preschool services for families, and that has been working well given the pandemic. So we may not be able to be in a physical environment, but we have been providing that online support.
So just to stay here for a minute, in terms of the online support, that is different, especially with young learners. How has that interaction been?
Right.
Yeah,
So this
Carrie,
has
I would
been,
love to hear your view on
yes,
this as one of the teachers.
I know going to say that Carrie will be the one to do
No
that.
problem. So I like how Sharice would have asked about COVID-19. So that would bring me to our team that we are actually rolling out online. It's the Healthy Body, Healthy Me. So the children would have started learning about what is this whole COVID-19, what is germs, and what are the safety protocols involved in terms of hand washing and sanitizing and social distancing. And you wouldn't believe, you may think that how can I teach a young learner these things? But children were taught through the online process how to properly wash their hands. What is the proper way to wear a mask and what is the incorrect way to wear a mask in terms of even sanitizing their toys and getting them involved in sanitizing doorknobs as well as countertops. So being a part of whole family drive of healthy living and ensuring that at that young age they are aware and they know what to implement with regards to this COVID-19 and even social distancing in terms of teaching children this new normal of how we would interplay and so forth. It's very essential. And we know young learners, for example, even coughing. So teaching them about coughing etiquette, how to cough, properly or correctly to avoid your germs from being spread and so forth. So these are some of the things along with so many other curriculum aspects, if I can go on. Some people wonder, face-to-face is ideal for young learners, yes, but you can do hands-on activities in a virtual space. It means, yes, the assistance of an adult caregiver or parent, but we would have engaged children in drama in terms of taking care of their body, hair washing. Those children were there with their shampoo and their conditioner, and they were washing the hair of their dolls or their bears, or even a piece of weave, as we would know as women. And they did the steps, and it was hands-on. They were doing the various steps, even cookery. In terms of taking care of your body, they would have made a fruit salad and cutting and peeling of the banana, and these are hands-on things. And just Monday, we did aerobics with the children. How do you keep your body in shape and so forth? So craft, cookery, drama, all these hands-on engaging activities are done, and you get all your subject areas interwoven there, and learning is just fun and fantastic.
And you're doing this online, Carrie Ann?
Yes, we are. We are doing it online.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yes, yes.
So tell me something. Either you or Nicole can answer this. When you told the parents, I guess May, March, April, that look, with COVID, with the restrictions, the curfews and so on, we have to move. I mean, what went into the decision to move online? Obviously, the government protocols, but how did the parents react when you first told them that you were moving online?
Cleveland, it was more of a, we are ready to do it, because we were at a point where we really had very little alternative. And because we had to engage the children, parents were willing to learn very quickly, just like us. We had to find the right platforms. We played around with a few things, just to see which one would have worked best. And once children and parents were settled into the Zoom offering, we were able to do very good work with them. So much so that we were getting to coming to the last term of the academic year, and we were able to get our children ready for their primary school experience. So they went off to elementary school in September. And just the feedback from the parents, when I reached out to them to do follow-up, the parents were literally very grateful that we started them online in that third semester, because they had to continue with that with their primary schools. And they were able to tell us that the children are more settled there, because they had that opportunity just before they go off to primary school to engage in the virtual environment. They were more settled. They were still very eager to learn, because we are big on helping children to understand and to glean the love for learning. You must have that enriching love for learning. And they did very well.
Sounds really awesome. I mean, I know it is a challenge to have the secondary school children, even the primary school children, but we're talking about children age 3 to 5 here. And I mean, it's really amazing to hear the response and their reaction to this. Carrie Ann, any particular challenges you had with the students at this age once they got online?
Well, what comes to mind is our motto is learning through play, celebrating the process. So therefore, we are not looking for perfect work. We know children, it's a developmental process and so forth. So we are still in the habit of encouraging parents to allow children, give them that autonomy or independence, because we know there's that school of thought of the traditional type rote learning and not hands-on and giving children opportunity. And many of our elders are, within that framework. So we are trying to behavior change in terms of giving children that autonomy to thrive, to make mistakes, to do it a different way, even if it's not what the parent may think it should look, right? Because we really want children to develop critical thinking. We want to give children autonomy to choose. We want them to have that ability to express themselves. And so sometimes there is a bit of a challenge of, getting the adults to understand the stage that their child is in and allow them to be a child.
Yeah, we parents always want to keep them close to our chest, don't we?
Yes, but just to extend on that a little bit, we found that sometimes the technology itself poses a bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
Because within some households, you found that because everybody was at home, all the different levels within the household had to have a device. And then you had sometimes just 2 parents, sometimes 4 children, and they were online at the same time.
Yep.
So in some instances, you found that our children were kind of given less time. So we had to always reach out, remind parents, make sure they come online and so on. And we were able to tweak our delivery to the point where we said, okay, we understand what parents are going through. We are not going to have school Monday to Friday. We are going to have Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And that really worked well as well. So parents had a little more time to engage with the different levels of learners within their household and still give their preschoolers the opportunity to come on 3 days for the week. And we didn't keep it very long. It's not a whole day schedule. We basically just did circle time with the children and allow them to do an activity. And on Tuesdays and Thursdays, when they're not online with us, they were doing home activities for them, with their parents and so on. And that is working very well.
Yeah.
Right, displaying the agility of the UWI Open Campus and Bloom TT. Just to remind the viewers who have just joined us that you are watching Let's Talk Access, a program produced and presented by the UWI Open Campus. And this evening, the focus is on Bloom TT. It is described as a lab school, and we do real-life research there, but we also teach children ages 3 to 5. Cherise?
Yes, just to piggyback off of what Nicole would have just spoken about in terms of the extent of the involvement of parents, not only during this period, but in general? How involved are the parents in that learning process?
Right. So I'm going to talk about one aspect and I'm going to hand over to Carrie Ann, who is going to be more in terms of the curriculum delivery. But for parents, we found that in the first phase of the lockdown, because we had several phases, the first phase of the lockdown, everybody was at home. So you found that the parents had to give a little more, they had a little more time to engage with the children. But then when parents went off to work, then they had to find a substitute person, whether it be a grandparent or a relative, and that sometimes posed a bit of a challenge. But the children were still very eager. Once we would have planted the seed of coming online, and they knew exactly when they had to be online, they were eager to come online. But Carrie Ann could talk a little bit more about how parental support became very necessary as we went through this COVID period and the virtual preschool.
Yes, thank you. So parents would have had to assist us, now be the facilitator, as we would have done that in the actual physical space. So we would have asked parents, even the school would have supplied some materials for parents, and then we would have asked parents to get appropriate materials as well. Parents would have also be involved in creating what we will call a print-rich environment for their child, right? To stimulate learning and language and so forth, as well as being an assistant or a guide when the activities are actually rolling out. There are times where a 4+ may be able to maneuver the child-size scissors and cutting and so forth, where a child who is 3 years old would need some assistance. So in terms of assisting while the online class is going on, ensuring that the child is, on task and so forth, getting the relevant materials, creating that educational or print-rich environment, as well as assessing. What we would do is what you call an authentic assessment. So now parents are our eyes and our ears in terms of looking at their child's development and assessing how their child is going. If they're not seeing certain signs in terms of language and creativity and curiosity, they are now ticking off, the various points in the checklist to indicate whether, yes, they're ready to go, they're steady and so forth. So our parents are heavily involved in helping in also that assessment aspect of the child, because we are not physically there with them. So parental support is a huge aspect in terms of ensuring the success of this online learning that the UWI Open Campus Bloom TT is rolling out currently.
And just to add to that, Carrie Ann, one of the things that we emphasize to the parents is to create an emotionally rich environment for their children.
Yeah.
Because we didn't want children to be frustrated. We knew that parents were having a challenging time coping. And we would have met with them and helped them to understand some of the challenges that their children, some of the behaviors, I should say, their children might exhibit, because they too would have been experiencing loss of environment, not being with their teachers, not being with their friends, and then using the technology to see their friends and so on. And it really required an emotionally rich environment, both from the parent standpoint and the children's standpoint, because you had to be happy to learn. You have to want to learn. So you had to be nobody buffing a child or telling them, no, come here. We try to minimize those kinds of behaviors so that everybody, when they come on with us, they are feeling good and ready to learn.
Great. All right.
Thank you for that. In terms of, we know during the period you had a book, Catherine O'Sullivan, I can't go to school, but I can do lots of things. That was a very interesting and interactive piece for young learners, especially as you alluded to earlier, to help in terms of their understanding of what COVID-19 is and those learning materials. Can you give us a little feedback on what the response was to the book?
Oh, well, for us, it has been exceptionally well. We send it off soft copy to our parents, and the parents, not only within the Bloom TT, but we send it out to parents with young children, children who would have left us, and so on. And the feedback was tremendous. They liked the fact that children were given an opportunity to relate via story. And we know how storytelling can be a very powerful tool in transferring information to young children. So it worked exceptionally well. In addition to that, we also did workshops and so meeting as staff members within the open campus to help our staff members who had young children and children who are older to learn and to understand some of the coping mechanisms that they can use with their children at home and creating that school-like environment. And I like to stress school-like, not school, but school-like environment.
Right.
Because sometimes we felt that parents want to make sure that the children have a full school day, which is not very practical. You don't know, they're at home. So a lot of things would not be the same. And let's be realistic here. Unless you are a trained teacher as a parent, you still needed to know how to deliver the curriculum. There are some things that parents just would not know. And they required us to help them in that regard, right? And remember, parents are dealing with different levels of education within their household. So it was important for us to reach out to them through those kinds of mediums as well to help them to understand that they can create a learning-rich environment at home and it's not too heavily school-like. Yes?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, can you just let our listeners know where they can access the book?
Well, it's soft copy. They can email us and we can possibly send it to them at bloomtt@open.uwi.edu, and they can access it through us.
Okay, that email address will be placed in the chat on our YouTube and Facebook pages. In terms of projects coming up, maybe not exactly like the book, but are there any similar plans?
Well, we would hope that we would have something that could help children to reintegrate, to help them to understand protocols for when we go back into school. And we may not be able to publish a book before that happens, but I know for sure we are going to be doing a lot of dramatic prepping the children, through storytelling and different means like puppetry and
Puppetry, yes.
Yes, to get them ready for coming back to school. So that would be some of our approaches that we would use. But what we want to do at this point is to encourage parents who have not taken the opportunity to have their children in a virtual preschool, that they can still come on to Bloom TT. We have a few weeks left before the semester ends. We are not sure what is going to happen come January. But either way, whether you have decided that you are going to, you have not done it this semester, next semester you are faced with the same challenge of being online, Bloom TT is a viable option for you. And you simply have to send us an email with an interest that you would like your child to be registered within the virtual preschool, and we'll be happy to have you. If things open back up come January, all fingers and toes crossed, that we are back in the physical environment. Of course, we will have a lot of restrictions and all the protocols that we will have to follow. We are located in Shogunas, and we want the Shogunas and environs community to know that we are in the Shogunas area. The landmark for knowing where we are is simply the Ministry of Agriculture. Heartland, right? Heartland Plaza, that big little area right there. And we are like 10 seconds or 15 seconds to the back of the Ministry of Agriculture on the right-hand side once you come off the highway and going in there. So we are in the new campus, the Shagona site, and we will be there come January once things are opening up physically. But if not, they can get us online and we'll be happy to have the children.
All right, great stuff. Remember, you can also ask questions or seek clarification by putting those questions or comments in the chat on Facebook or YouTube, and we are also on the Open Campus Twitter feed. As we said, this evening we are focusing on Bloom, Trinidad and Tobago, doing some amazing work in early childhood education. Now, one of the things I recall happening earlier, well, a couple months ago, Nicole, you guys arranged a seminar for parents or a workshop. Was it a program? Tell us about the program you have for parenting. I think it was a parenting workshop, and it was also done online.
Yes, well, we had sessions with our UE staff members that we engaged as well. And we did a number of topics. We talked about tell a story. We did a workshop on that. And it was basically to help parents to use the medium of storytelling to help children to calm down and settle down and to also extend their learning because we know the value of storytelling. So we did that. Cecile Minot and Catherine O'Sullivan, because we are a team of Bloom TT staff, Bloom staff across Jamaica and TT. And we would have done how we can help parents to use the environment as a print-rich learning environment for their children. And that one was really interesting because parents didn't recognize that they can use basic everyday household things to create educational, teachable things with their children. And simple things like socks, cereal boxes could be turned into puzzles, socks could be turned into puppets, water bottles could be recycled into families of different colors and so on. So it was really interesting for us to help parents to use those types of mediums to get their children to keep their children learning. Because in the first lockdown, what we recognized is that a lot of parents, they had to scramble for devices. They really didn't have it at hand, all of them. And then some of them were actually working at home. So they might have needed their devices to do their work from home. And the children had to get other devices. But if you didn't get one right away, learning could have still taken place. And those are some of the things some of the ideas that we would have helped the parents with.
Right. So interestingly, we Open Campus Marketing would have shared your flyer in other markets, and there was significant interest in other markets. Are you planning to offer this come January or later this semester?
Once the virtual preschool continues, we encourage anybody from across the Caribbean to join us, or any part of the world, because virtually you can be anywhere and
exactly
and pop into a classroom now. So you can join us anywhere. We had a very interesting experience because we offered a free circle time a few weeks ago. And we had persons from across the country as well as across the Caribbean. People from BVI children from BVI were with us. And we had a good turnout for that. And we recognized at that point that parents are looking for opportunities to keep their children engaged. And a virtual preschool is something that parents may be a little skeptical about because they're thinking that their little ones may not sit, they may not be able to maintain that attention span and so on. But we keep it so interactive and so engaging that the children, they stay with us very well for circle time. They have lots of videos, they're clapping, they're singing, they're dancing. You know, they have.
For those of us who are not familiar with early childhood, what is circle time?
All right, so Carrie Ann can explain what is circle time.
Circle time is what sets the tone of the day. So it begins with the prayer, with the school prayer, because you want to always at an early age ensure that children acknowledge God, for life and so forth. And then what we will do, we go into including some Spanish greetings, Buenos dias, so children learn English and Spanish in terms of how to say a good morning greeting. Then we will do what is called phonetics with letter song. So whatever day of the week it is, if it's Monday, so they learn the letters in the word. They also do the letter sound of M. Yeah, and then we get into various aspects. So on different days, you have different types of activities. For example, You may have music and movement, and this is where children are physically up on their feet doing different movements. So you're developing the gross motor skills, their large muscles, and they are having fun. They are appreciating different types of music. They are able to express themselves through that medium. So music and movement has the whole body involved. Then you have, on another day, we may do story time, and we know we are in the technology age, so we have ebooks. So they will have audio books, and as well, we introduce hard copy books. And I want to stick up in there because given that we are in this virtual world and high on technology, I want to encourage parents to not forget the hard copy books where children are able to open those pages and turn them.
Touch and feel.
Yes. That is very important. So we do the both digital as well as hard copy. So children can get an understanding what is an author as opposed to an illustrator. All these terms we teach them at a young age. The illustrator is the one who designs the pictures and so forth. And as we roll out the stories, after the stories, we would ask questions as to what do you remember? What came first? What came next? So you want sequence in there in terms of description, in terms of sound and color and size and shape. So you really want children talking and thinking. These are some of the strategies we use when we do story time. And then another aspect we do is show and tell. And this is where most times we do it on a Friday, where children are encouraged to bring an object. It could be their favorite toy, a favorite outfit. And what we are encouraging or expose the children in this session is to be expressive. So you're going to tell us about this toy, tell us about the shape, the color, the texture of the toy. And what we do is open-ended questions because we don't want the yes and no's. Remember, we want the children talking and developing. So how, why, when, who? All these questions, as we will call them, the 5 W's and so forth, we know in higher level. So we do open-ended questions to get children talking, get children developing their confidence. Self-esteem is a very big thing. So circle time encourages that. It fosters that self-esteem in the children, autonomy to be able to speak in front of an audience. All of that, you know, a lot of adults have that fear in terms of speaking in front. So when you start at that early age, developing their independence, their self-esteem, giving them that sense of courage and so forth, and encouraging them along the way, it sets the tone for their next level or stage of development and education. So that's what circle time is about. It sets the tone, and we use various strategies or various mediums to get it done.
All right.
Wow, Carrie, and I can hear your passion, early childhood.
Yes.
Is something you thoroughly enjoy.
Yes.
Bouncing off of that, can you go over the qualifications and training that someone may need to be in early childhood management?
Okay, so as Mrs. Romani said, you can come in at the basic certificate level. So you have your certification in early childhood education, and that would afford you to be in a teacher assistant's position. And we always encourage upward development and so forth. So the next stage would be your bachelor's in early childhood, and that would allow you to now be a lead teacher. So those are the two areas. Of course, teachers have that opportunity of branching onto other aspects in terms of master's and educational program, what area of speciality. But to function in the early childhood environment, you start with your certificate and then you go on to the bachelor's, because that's mandatory in terms of best practice and educational standards in Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay. And what can you give us some insight into what you think, into how you think the curriculum for early childhood management will evolve, will change in the next 5 to 10 years?
Oh, definitely. I see what we would call STEM in terms of that whole technological aspect that is going to increase in a very dynamic way. It wouldn't be passive because children would now need to know how to not just turn on a computer, but know the applications and the terms of getting into various softwares. the engineering aspect, I can see that taken on, because you definitely need children to be using their hands and thinking. So engineering aspect, constructing and so forth. So I see the engineering as well as the technological aspect, in addition to the creative arts, the creative aspect. No longer is about sitting and waiting and thinking that we should do it in a box, but allowing children that freedom to express themselves and say, well, why don't we have a different color of the box? So why don't we build something on top of the box? So I think the next 5 to 10 years will push the level in terms of our thinking and our approach to technology, to engineering, to creativity.
Great. I forgot to say those 2 questions were from our audience. So persons are very interested in this aspect. Nicole,
Okay.
have a comment?
Yes, and I just wanted to add to that, because we will have a lot of devices up and running, but we will definitely need people to fix them. So you need people who are critical thinkers, people who are very much tech savvy and interested in finding out how things work. You know, children ask those why questions, how questions, why questions all the time. And parents tend to think that it's overwhelming at times to answer all those why questions. But you will definitely need a why person in your environment in the next 5 years. Why is this not working?
Ask all the questions.
Yes, yes. So it's definitely going to change over a period of time. And we have to be mindful of the change in both the physical component and the cognitive component, because while we may go on to the technological aspect, we have to emphasize physical movement, and we have to encourage children to become more physically aware. So nutrition should come into play. We want to talk a little bit more about physical activity, because we know that technology can put us in a state of sedentary, that we spend a lot of time sitting. And you really want children to be able to integrate the technology to help them to move and to keep active and to be healthy. So the technological part of it, we have to also have that ongoing awareness of how we need to keep our bodies physically healthy for us to have those healthy minds, because we know healthy bodies will help us with healthy minds. All right, so that will be a bit of a shift as well, but we have to encourage parents, more importantly, to understand that children need to develop holistically. It is not only about the brain component. Yes, we want to have bright children. We want to have more Dr. Sams in the world. We want to have more doctors. You know, we want to do that. But I also want to enjoy going to the cinema and watch an artistic person. I want to walk through an art gallery and see the artistic work behind your head, Dr. Sam. There's a lovely painting, and it took somebody to do it. Right? So you have to embrace all aspects of your child. And I know sometimes we tend to focus so much on our children doing well academically. And what about, I know that maybe, yes, I may make some money time I'm retired, but if I was a sports person, I could have retired earlier. And you know that? Yeah. So that tells us that the world needs all kinds of people.
All kinds.
Okay?
Yes, I totally agree. And I just want to add to that. I want to encourage parents, our listeners, to really promote the innate ability. Look at your child, observe your child, and allow your child to be the best version of themselves. Not to project what you may want, but allow them to develop their multiple intelligence, as we have been bringing out here.
Awesome stuff. You guys are doing some amazing work. But in all of this, I recognize, Nicole and Kerry-Ann, that COVID has actually opened up a great opportunity for Bloom, whether it's TT or Jamaica, because now, rather than restricting your students to Jamaica and Trinidad, you now have the world as your oyster.
Yes, most definitely.
Indeed.
And
so, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
So my question following up on that, basically, your next intake is when? And when is your next intake? And therefore, if we are still in an online environment, would you or could you be accepting students from anywhere in the world?
Most definitely. We are already marketing within the online space, and we are asking parents even now, if they have not accessed a virtual preschool as yet, Bloom TT is still willing to take your child between now and the end of the closure of the term, just to give your child an opportunity to get a feel of the virtual environment. And you also, as parents, will be educated on how this works. And you too can get a bit of training in how you can support your children as they engage in the online environment. Our next intake will be for January. School officially opens, quote unquote, whether it be online or in the physical environment on January 4th here. We don't know how things are going to roll out, but we are definitely preparing for our openings, whether it be online or in the physical space. If we are going to be in a physical space, I'm telling the public that you have to send in your applications like all now. So you can go onto our Facebook page. There's a link you can do a soft copy, a registration. And if not, you can send me an email at bloomtt@open.uwi.edu for an application form. You can also call the school phone number 186 738 3536. Those are all the access points that you can get onto us. And we are willing to have your children enrolled within our programs come January and even at this point in time. So we are still open to helping parents with that kind of engagement for the young children. I know that some
Awesome.
parents are very skeptical. Um, what I must mention here as well too, Dr. Sam, we had started a toddler care program as well attached to the Bloom preschool. In other words, we had a few parents who had younger children, and they were looking at the fact that they had to drop off the preschooler and then take the toddler somewhere else. And we found that that was a need, and we created a toddler care program for the parents, children of 18 months to 3 years, that we can nurture them and prepare them for preschool. And the children will just go into our preschool environment. So parents who are in need of that toddler care service as well, not baby or nursery care, we are not doing birth as yet. We are just offering from the toddler care, which will be about 18 months to about 3 years for when the child is ready to go off to preschool. So we are offering that service. Once things roll out and we're in a physical space, we are going to be accepting children within that age group as well.
Great. Can you tell us again the cost of the book? We didn't mention it before, but can you tell us the cost?
I don't know the cost of the book, but there is a soft copy version that can be accessed. I know that it was through a project. I will have to get confirmation on whether or not it's still circulating via that mode, but you can still email for the information and we will tell the public how they can access it.
Okay, and that email address again is
bloomtt@open.uwi.edu.
okay. And we have some questions coming in from our audience. One of them is, oftentimes the children are being looked after by friends, relatives, or neighbors who are only minding and not able to educate. Sometimes the adults themselves struggle with literacy. What can be done to simplify but maintain structure so that adults don't feel threatened or challenged? I guess they're speaking of persons, children who aren't in preschool. So they're being with relatives or whatever. What advice would you give them until they can get into a preschool?
So this is for younger children until they're able to get into a preschool. So they're basically at home with some relative who can just help them, supervision and so on. So what we do is that we help grandparents or parents with that by providing them with a kit. We send the information to them. So they don't have to go looking. So we may email you what we are going to do on that particular day. So parents, if they're at the office or if they have a printer at home, they can print it home and print it and take it home for their children. So all the person has to really do is to be like a guide on the side and allow the children to do. And we talk the children through the task, through the activity. So the child is completing it as they go. And it's not very difficult.
And going back to what Carrie Ann would have stated when she spoke about technology, someone wants to know what is the limit that you allow preschool children and infants to be on their tablets or devices. Yes, especially in the school setting.
Okay, so that would be about 30 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes. We will have what is called the technology aspect, computer literacy technology aspect. So 30 to 45 minutes would be the time frame children would be engaged utilizing devices.
Yes, and that is not just a steady flow of 30 to 45 minutes. There's usually an adult who is there expanding on their knowledge, asking questions, allowing the child to ask questions. So you have that serve and return kind of engagement with the children. So they ask the questions, we offer them the answers, as well as help them to think for themselves, but it's not
Yeah.
a steady flow. And we encourage parents to not allow children to be on devices for long periods of time, 2 hours,
Yeah.
3 hours without breaks in between. You
Yeah.
must stop the child at some point. And the younger the child, I say 15 minutes max. So they watch a short YouTube video or they do a little game on the tablet, and then you break it off and you allow them to go do something physical, meaning that they
Yeah.
can build a block, they can build puzzles, because they can do all those things online and within the they can use apps for those things. But we don't want our children apping all the time. We want them to
Yeah.
be breaking a point, getting
Yes,
their
some
chain of thought,
physical activity.
yes,
Yes.
get into the reality
Hands-on.
world. Yes,
Yes.
and get them moving. Most importantly, children are natural movers. And if we find that our children are sitting for long hours with devices, it's not healthy. They are natural movers. If you put a
Yes.
child in a room by themselves, they will walk around that room, jump, skip, do all kinds, because their bodies are moving bodies, right? So if
Yes.
we see them sitting with those devices for very long, it's not healthy. We have to
Yeah,
encourage them to
definitely.
break and go on to do something else, and that's important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. We
I
can
love
go on for hours, but we only have 8 more minutes, believe it or not. I mean, and you
Okay.
guys are really doing some amazing work there at Bloom TT, and I'm sure your colleagues in Jamaica are doing similar work. It's
Yes.
important for us again to just reiterate that you can now send your children or child to Bloom TT even for the rest of the semester. But
Yeah.
what is the application period for the January intake?
We are taking applications all now. So it's open access. People can go onto the Facebook page, use the link, and they can register their children. They can email us for for more information as to how they can go about registered. But it's open registration. We are asking parents to show your interest now, and so that we can afford to get you involved in the school once January comes. So we don't have to be, you don't have to worry about it. The faster you register with us, the faster your name is within our database, so that we can reach out to you when it's time to start school.
Right. And I mean, I heard Carrie Ann mention a lot of really great activities. And as in our last couple of minutes, I just wanted to ask if you could categorize these activities, because I heard you mention things like puppetry and drama and dance and so on. If you could just categorize these activities first so that people know what type of activities their children will be getting into when they're at Bloom TT.
Okay, so the activities will go under various subjects. So they will do math activities, they will be engaged in language activities, social studies, as well as science, cookery, drama. All those subject areas we cover with young learners, music and movement.
Using activities.
Yes, yes, yes.
Wow, I want to go back to preschool.
I was saying, Dr. Sam, it sounds very exciting.
But
Very,
Dr. San,
very
you can
exciting.
come in. You can come in as a teacher. We have a deficiency in male
In
preschool
male teachers.
So we will be
Recruiting
very happy to
males.
have you. We will be very willing to train you and to have
Okay.
male presence within this.
Challenge, Nicole, challenge.
Ladies, do
Oh,
you
man.
Just wanted to know if you have any words of encouragement for anyone who is coming into this field or who is interested in coming into this field.
Carrie, you want to?
Well, what I would say is that you first must have a love for children. If you don't have a passion and a love for children and to have the patience to allow children to grow and to develop, then you should stay away. But if you have that passion for children, if you want to see children grow holistically, which is socially, you want them to grow physically, emotionally, intellectually, you want to see a child develop their whole self, this is indeed the field for you, because you are shaping the minds of the future prime ministers and presidents, as we all know, and this is not a figure of speech, but it's literally that. And young learners, they need love, they need care from our adults. So definitely, I would say passion for children and seeing a child develop holistically, it's the goal.
One of the things that I always tell teachers who are coming into the field, you have to see yourself as a lifelong learner. One of the things that really it exhumes within an early childhood educator is the fact that you become excited about new things happening in the field. So you don't become too despondent. So we have shifted to online environment. You have to have that inner drive in you to say, okay, new approach. How do I handle this for my children, for my parents, and I'm ready to go. You have to be so dedicated to the field, to the love for children, that you must be willing to alter and adjust to the point where you see yourself as a lifelong learner and a person who loves people. Because you're not only going to be engaging with children, you're going to be engaging with their families. And families come to us just like chocolate in a box. You never know what you will get.
Just like chocolate in a box. I love that analogy and that imagery. I love chocolate. You just made me want to go and have one now, Nicole. But I think that is a very sweet point to end on.
Right.
Yes.
And I just want to thank you, wherever you are in the world this evening, for joining us and making this program a success. Of course, special thanks to our two special guests, Mrs. Nicole Romney, who is the Early Childhood Coordinator at Bloom TT, and Miss Kerry Ann Placid, a teacher at Bloom TT. Cherise?
Yes, and we want to also thank our technical team, our team behind the scenes, Patrick Johnson, David Foster, Richard Barth, Louis Boxell, and Marcia Reed, who were sending questions to us. Dr. Sam?
Yes. So, thank you very much, ladies. Until next time, I am your co-host, Cleveland Sam.
And I'm your co-host, Cherise Glasgow. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.